So hello everyone. You should be able to hear me now better. Uh, we want to welcome you into our first online workshop, fully online workshop. We are Glasgow University Game Development Society, and due to the current pandemic situation that you might have heard about, we are forced to conduct this online, but there is a silver lining. Hopefully, it will be accessible to more people than ever, and anyone can just, enjoy it from the comfort of their own couch or wherever you are watching this. Hopefully, you will be able to follow through. Hopefully, you got your Blender downloaded because, as you might have guessed, this is what we are going to be using. uh, we are going to introduce you to the beautiful world of 3D modeling. We have some more workshops coming up. I'm sure you can check them out on our Facebook page, on our Discord. I've linked it down below in the description. And I think you can, I hope you are going to enjoy them as well. Hope you are going to enjoy this one. Uh, what we're going to be covering here is absolute beginner stuff. So if you've never touched Blender, welcome. If you've touched some Blender and you know what the default cube is and you can navigate around it, you can rotate it, scale it, then you're probably going to be a bit bored for the first 10 minutes. But after that, you also should be interested. And if you consider yourself to be intermediate or maybe even an advanced beginner, then I still hope you're going to enjoy this live stream because at least you can see what we're going to be doing here and maybe do it better or at least learn some new techniques. Uh, yeah. So basically, we as a society are running this workshop in an expectation to help you prepare for our game jam that we have going on for Glasgow Uni students. You can find that on our social media channels as well. And yeah, that's it. Today we're doing 3D art, as I said. Tomorrow is introduction to music. On Wednesday, you'll be introduced to 2D art for a change. And on Thursday, one day before the game jam, we're having Unity workshop to kind of bind that all of this together and help you prepare better to actually work with game making. But yeah, I'm Amadeus. I will be your Blender tutor for today. Hope you're going to enjoy what we will be doing here. So I have a plan to show you how to make your very first simple model, and then kind of a level for that model. What it will be, you will see later on. And then if we have some time at the end, then maybe I'll do a little bonus with you, something more fun to to also show you some Blender skills and to show you how you can make different stuff in it. Obviously, we're going to be kind of keeping low poly here because, well, it's way easier for beginners. Trust me, all the fundamental stuff that you need to learn, you can easily learn by modeling in low poly. And then you can easily transition into high poly after that. It will not be a problem for you. So basically, if you're not sure what low poly means, let me just show you. Okay, so hopefully you all can see now that this is basically what we mean by low poly. It's a very blocky type of thing, but it's cute. It's got a certain, I like to think that it's got a certain character to it. And it's so much easier. It's faster to learn, and it's fun, and it can be totally valid. A lot of popular games are low poly, so no need to get discouraged by that. If you wanted to jump straight into high poly, then I tell you it would be much, you would find it much more difficult. Okay, so yeah, so this is high poly that I'm showing you here. Okay, so I hope that you're prepared. We're going to be working in Blender, so I hope you have your latest Blender downloaded. Basically, what we are going to need is what we are going to be using is any Blender above 2.8. So like 2.8, 2.82, 2.9 is also fine. It's the latest one, I believe. It's what I'm going to be working on. But anything above 2.8 is good. Lower than that, there might be some significant differences. It might be less than ideal. So if you can, then please update. But if you can't, or I don't know, you prefer to be using lower than that, you should also be fine. You might have just some differences that you might need to work out. And with that said, I want to also welcome you into our chat beneath this live stream on YouTube. You can just, post your questions there. I will try to answer them as quickly as I can. I got my wonderful mods working on that. Thank you guys. And so they will relay any of your questions to me, hopefully, because I will not be looking at the chat all the time. Obviously, I will be looking more at Blender. So yeah, if you have any questions, just try to post them there. I will try to answer. And with that, I have your first task for you. Just start up Blender and let's get going, shall we? Okay, so this is basically what you should see when you're starting up Blender for the first time. Uh, it may be a little bit intimidating, but this is just how Blender is. Uh, it used to have a very non-typical user interface. A lot of boxes, a lot of panels, but don't worry about them. Hopefully by the end of this stream, you'll be completely fine with them. What we're going to do here first is get you accustomed to a 3D interface, to navigating in 3D space, interacting with objects that we have here. So yeah, hope you all get your blenders started up by this point. And we're going to start with basic navigation, how to get stuff moving around. Let me just do one little thing. You don't need to do this. You can't do this actually. What I'm going to do is just start up a very nice add-on to Blender that will show you right here in the bottom left corner all the keys, all the buttons that I am pressing. So you can follow me this way as well. It should be very helpful for you. Okay, so we are here. What do we see? Is a default cube. It is a famous default cube of Blender that everyone begins by deleting this cube for no apparent reason because you might use it later, but who cares? I'm just going to delete it to actually just follow through with tradition of using Blender. Don't mind that. You don't have to do this. And as you can see, I am moving a camera around. Actually, I should not delete this cube because it is a very good point of reference for you. So I am moving camera around, and I am doing this by just holding middle mouse button and just moving my mouse around. This is a very important aspect of working with Blender, that you must have a three button mouse. Really, this is like a staple, I think, because it's going to be much more difficult for you to work without it. I've seen people work on touchpad. I've seen people using Blender on touchpad, and I've seen them succeed. Yeah, shout out to Melania. I've seen my friend from Game Development Society just do it on Blender, and she actually produced clean models. But generally, to make your life easier, maybe use three button mouse. I mean, as you can see, the basic of moving around is with this mouse. So middle mouse button to move camera around. If you hold shift plus middle mouse button, you can pan the camera around. You can pan view like that, up, down, move it to the right, to the left. And obviously, with your middle mouse button, with your wheel, you can zoom in and zoom out. So this is how you navigate in 3D space in Blender. The absolute basic that you need is right here. You can try it out on your own. Uh, yeah. Uh, okay, sorry for that. Uh, and yeah, so as you can see, we're here, and I am selecting things by just clicking left mouse button. You click on them, and that should allow you to just select stuff. So currently we can select this cube. As you can see, it is our first model, our face first basic model that we have. We can also select this little thing, and this is our source of light for our model. So this is very important when rendering later on. So you can see how your model would look like when rendered on an actual engine. But this is not very important for you right now. And this is a camera, so this will show you what the camera will see when rendering an object. But again, this is not very important right now. Blender just likes to add these things to help you out, to make it easier for you. You don't have to trouble yourself with them now. Mm. So now that we have all the basics covered of how to move camera around, we can actually get into interacting with stuff in Blender. Uh, so basically, if you left click on this cube here, you have it selected now, and anything you do, you're going to do to it. So to move it around, how do we move it around, or to call it more professionally, translate it in a 3D space? We're just uh, we just press G, and that stands for grab to make it easier for you. And with G pressed, you can just move it around like that. Now, if I wanted to place it somewhere, I just confirm it with a left click, and it has changed its position. And if I do it again, just press G, I have it grabbed right here. I can move it around, but if I don't want to move it, if I want to leave it where it was, I just right click, and that cancels it out. So pretty straightforward, pretty easy. As you can see in the top left corner, you got this stuff, which is a kind of shortcut for that. So when you click on move here, you can do basically the same using these arrows, just move it on different axes. So that's just a shortcut for you, but let me tell you that you're going to find it much easier to actually navigate Blender using keyboard shortcuts. So this is G for grab, move around. Then you have R, and with R you can rotate, as the letter implies, so just rotate your mesh around. And with S you can scale it, so make it larger, smaller, quite straightforward. Now, important thing is that as with any 3D space, you got axes, X, Y, and Z. Basically, these lines, red and green, should make it easier for you to kind of orient yourself where you are and what is where. And basically, if I press G to grab and move it around, and then, still on my keyboard, I press X, I can move it only on the X-axis to be more precise. That makes it much easier. We're going to be using that a lot. So, press G and then X, Z, or Y, still on your keyboard, and you can move it around just as it was. For example, G and Z allows me to move it so-called up and down. Uh, the same goes for rotate. When I rotate it right now, I just rotate it on the axis that is like I see it face up to me. But if I press Z, I rotate it only on Z axis, X only on X axis, and so on and so forth. You can try that out for yourselves. Uh, the same goes for scale. So maybe we want to make this cube wider on a y-axis, the green axis. So we just press S and Y. And now it is going to get longer and wider, as you can see. Pretty straightforward, pretty easy. If you have had contact with any 3D software before, that will not be anything new to you. So now I will just get this cube back using G for grab. More or less where it was? Absolutely not. So you see, you got a kind of coordinate with where you are in a 3D space in relation to other stuff. For example, this point of intersection of these lines to kind of make sure that you are in the right place all the time. And now you may have noticed this little red and white circle here. It is our 3D cursor. It is used for a lot of things, but for you, the most interesting thing about it is that, for example, this will be where our new models, new meshes that we add will appear, because basically mesh is a for just for your reference, mesh is another word for a 3D model. Let's simplify it like that. So mesh model, the same thing basically. And now we want to add something. Let's add another cube. So we press Shift and A, Shift plus A. And here you have Add menu, allows you to add many different things. Let's add another cube. Appear right there. We have two cubes now. Amazing. Amazing. Beautiful. And we can select this one or this one, but we can select both of them at the same time by holding Shift and clicking this and this. But as you may notice, one is a bright orange, the other is a bit darker orange. This means that the bright orange one is our active cube. So it will be useful when doing certain stuff to it, like for example, changing the way it looks, remodeling it, but that will come later. But just now remember that you can select multiple things at once. And then, for example, with G and X, I can move both of them around. But at the same time, there is a difference. Which one you have selected as the last one, this is going to be your active one, the bright orange one. So just remember that for later. Uh, and that's it for navigating and moving around and moving objects around. That's the most basic that you need. Now Blender has two interesting modes, two most important modes of operating on models. One is object mode. It is the one that we are in right now. It is in the top left corner, as you can see here, object mode. And it is for your general objects. So for example, this cube right now, when I scale it, I'm scaling all of it. It's a one object. That's how Blender treats it. I am moving all of it around. And I can select different objects and stuff like that. But when I click on this cube and I make sure that this is an active one, so for example, the bright orange one, and I press Tab, or I go in here in the top left corner and select edit mode, the same thing, but it's way faster to do with just your buttons. I enter edit mode. And in this edit mode, the cube is actually represented as a bunch of points and lines connecting them. And here I can select a specific point or a specific number of points, for example, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and do stuff to them. For example, I can move them with G, just like an object, and move them around, create something weird like that. Or I can take this point and just move it here. Then I can also select lines. To select lines, press 2 on your keyboard, and now we are in line selection mode. So as you can see, Right now I am only selecting lines on this specific object. And then there is also a face select mode. It's number 3. And I am selecting these faces. So you see like a sides of cube that I have here. And then I can do something like that I select the face and then press S to scale it down. So as you can see, it's changing quite a bit. And now when we leave edit mode by pressing tab, we have changed our object quite a bit. And now, for example, I will rotate it on Z-axis to show you that it looks very different. So basically edit mode, as the name implies, allows you to edit specific parts of your larger object. It is very useful. That's where most of modeling happens. But I'm going to show it to you on a more practical example. And that is what we are going to be doing right now in this tutorial. So you're probably just waiting to get some models going on. That's fine. We're getting to it now. Uh, Another handy shortcut is when you press A, you select all of your objects at once, and your latest object is your active object, by the way. And then when you press A twice, you deselect it, or you can just select it with A and then press Alt plus A to deselect it as well. So that's quite useful, for example, when you want to move everything that you have a bit. For example, A and then G and X, and I'm moving everything, as you can see. Pretty straightforward, pretty easy to understand. Okay. Also, additional interesting thing that you might want to change, but maybe not, is that when you go to edit here in this top tab, you can go to edit and preferences. And here you have different settings for Blender and you have themes. So basically there's a lot of things to kind of customize. Don't worry about that. I see that in the latest Blender you have a few presets. For example, you can set it to light. Or maybe if you've worked with Maya before, but then you wouldn't be watching this introductory video, but maybe you will like it more, you can set it like that. So you see, that's just purely, that changes nothing except for looks, but you know, maybe you like it better this way. I prefer just good old standard Blender mode. Okay, so now let's go to a clean new file. Let's open a new clean sheet on our Blender. So we do that by going to File and then New and just General. That's the basic setup that you will start with. It will open a new file. We don't need to save that. So here we are. You should be back here again with your cube, with everything in place. Important stuff. Remember to save in Blender, as with working in any software, even Microsoft Word. Save often. Control S. When you're doing it for the first time, you're gonna have to name it, and we are going to name it a car. Car 1, because I already have car, and we're going to be modeling a car, and then later on we're going to be modeling a racetrack for that car, that you can maybe make a racing game or just wannabe GTA simulator where you just drive around an island or whatever. Of course, it's not going to be that advanced, but we are going to make a simple racetrack and some stuff around it. Okay, so let's get to it. Here we have our cube, and we are going to use it as a base for our 3D model for our car. Just press G and Z and lift it a little bit, just to make it easier for you. You don't have to do that, but I think it's going to make things much easier. And then we are going to scale it. We are going to scale it to make it longer on the Y-axis. So we just press S and Y, and we make our cube a little bit bigger. And now let's do the same for X. Just press S and X and make it a little bit wider. I can see that screencast key is turned off, but don't worry, it's back. Okay, maybe let's make it a bit less thick. So just S and Z and scale it down. So move your mouse inward like that. Okay, perfect. And it's still a bit too wide for a car. So what we're going to do is press X and S and X and just scale it down like that. Maybe more or less what we're aiming for here is going to be like a very base of our car. Now we are going to uh, add another cube. So just deselect everything and press Shift and A, add mesh and then cube. Let's move it up, G and Z, and put it more or less on top of our another cube that we got going on over there. As you can see while I'm clicking on that stuff, mm, I am, it's also selecting stuff in this right top panel. So basically, here are different cubes. You can change their names, and that should make it easier for you. For example, I'll name this one car base, and then I can remember which one it is. Okay, so maybe let's make this car a little bit longer and a little bit thicker. And then move this cube even higher up, like that. Okay, great. Now, what we need to do to prepare for what we're going to be doing later, we select this, let's select this cube. And now to ensure it is at the very top of this cube and it is positioned more or less how we want it to be, we can change our viewing perspective. So right now we're in perspective mode, that's what it's called. As you can see, it's quite straightforward, quite easy. And then by pressing 5 on your numpad, if you have a numpad on your laptop, you can switch into orthographic perspective. See, here it's user perspective. And you can press 5, for example, on your keyboard to change it into orthographic. I have selected 3 on my numpad and it has, sorry, 1 on my numpad and it has selected front orthographic. So basically, it's going to help you to position stuff better. For example, when you press 7 on your numpad, it's going to go into a top orthographic view. And here we can select this cube and just make sure that this is positioned just right. I think it is more or less at the center of this another block. And now I will make this cube at the top a bit wider and a bit longer by pressing S and then pressing Shift and Z at the same time. What it does, it allows you to scale or rotate or whatever. This time it's scaling because we have pressed S, your object on both of these axes at the same time without axis Z. So when you press S and then Shift plus Z, you will scale your object on all axes except Z, and it goes the same for all the other. Shift plus X allows you to scale on all the axes except X. So we're going to make it a bit bigger, like that. It's fine. And then we're going to make it a bit taller, because this is supposed to be like a top of our car, low poly car. So let's press S and Z and make it taller. Okay. And then G and Z to move it up a little bit. Okay. Now we're going to go into edit mode with this cube selected, press tab and just press 3 on your keyboard, normal 3, to go into face selection. So we can select sides and select this top face and just press S, just S, and scale it down like that. So as you can see, it's changing shape quite a bit. Maybe that will be fine. Get out of edit mode by pressing tab and maybe scale it on the Z axis a bit down. Yeah. And now scale it on the Y axis a bit more. Yeah, that should be fine. And now just position it at the top. Move your camera so you can see it quite well. And then G and Z and just bring it down. What is important is that you need to be aware of where your y-axis, so the green one, and where your x-axis, so the red one, are, because this is going to help you a great deal. As you can see, we're using a lot of that G plus X stuff to move it on a specific axis, because then you can be more precise and it's just easier to navigate. You make sure that you only move it where you want to move it. So if we want to move it up and we press G and Z and we know where it is, then we're not moving it left or right. We're just moving it up and down, even though our movements with mouse may be a bit imprecise. Okay, so this is where we are. This is our car. This is going to be our car. So as you can see, it is starting to resemble a car a little bit. Let me just show you what we are kind of aiming for. Don't worry about what I'm doing now. You don't need to really know that, but if you're interested, this little panel, you can change what's being kind of shown in any of these panels. So when I click here on any panel, or here, but don't change this just now, but theoretically if you want to, then you can change what's being shown here. So for example, I can open up another 3D viewport here and just see our car here. But what I'm going to do is I am going to open image editor and just open. So this is more or less what we're going to be aiming for. Should make it easier for you to kind of visualize what we'll be doing here. Okay, so as you can see, we got these two cubes. Now what we need are headlights. They're going to be super simple, super easy. So just for that, we're not going to use a cube, surprise, but we're going to use a cylinder. It's another basic shape that you can add in Blender. So press Shift and A, and in this add menu under mesh, you can select a cylinder right here, third from the bottom. Okay, technically fifth from the bottom. So as you can see, these are all the basic shapes that you can utilize in Blender. Plane, a cube, a circle, UV sphere. Don't trouble yourself with these just now. For now, just select cylinder, and the cylinder appears. We need it a little bit more blocky. So now, right after you added the cylinder, try not to click anywhere else. Click on this little bar that appeared right here, bottom left, add cylinder. So here you can change the number of vertices. So how blocky exactly is your cylinder going to be? And as we are doing low poly, we want it to be quite blocky. So I'll make it half of that. I'll type in 16 and then just press enter. And voila, we got a much more low poly cylinder. Okay, so we're going to move it with G, as you know. And then we're going to rotate it to be in a better position, like you can see here, to actually align with our car. So for that, we will be rotating it on the x-axis, as you can guess. So press R and X, and now you can move it by your hand, but that is not as precise as you would like it to be. I mean, for a low poly car like that, it should be just fine. But a nice little trick that you can learn is that when you press R and, for example, R and X, you can type in on your keyboard with normal numbers an angle, just an angle with numbers, like 90. And here we have rotated it by 90 degrees on x-axis, like that. So now we're moving it into a position a proper position on our car, G and Y. And now we need to scale it a little bit because it's way too big. And maybe make it a little bit longer. So on our green axis, our S and then Y. Okay, should be fine. That's more or less where you're going to want it. Then G and X, move it here. And then move it a little bit lower to make it kind of sink into our car. And then with G and Y, move it a bit forward so it's just sticking out like that. Should be fine this way, doesn't have to be perfect. Now what you need to do is also add a little curvature, as you can see, to just add a nice little touch of detail. So click on this cylinder and then press tab to go into edit mode. Make sure you are in face selection, so free on your keyboard. You can also choose it here and look in the in the top left corner. There's a point, a line and a face. Just select this face and then press I on your keyboard. It will allow you to move your face inward. Like that. See? So we're getting this this different view, and as you can see, these lines have followed, making those slices all around. And now we're going to move this face a little bit forward. So press, still with this face selected, press G and Y and move it just a little bit, not too much, something like that. So as you can see, now get out of edit mode with tab. As you can see, this has created a nice little detail for our headlights. It's going to look a bit better now. It's still low poly, so nothing spectacular. Okay, now let's go and actually add more detail to this part right here, because we need windows, as you can guess. So let's select this part and go tab, and now we're in edit mode. And by selecting any face, again, make sure you're in face selection. You can just click it and then do the same thing we did with headlights. Press I for, I don't know, putting it inward. You can remember it like that. And move it inward a little bit. Just a little bit. So we got this big face right here and these smaller faces. So as you can guess, this is going to be our frame and this is going to be a window itself, because the front part of a car is never a big window on its own. It's got this frame to hold it in. And we're going to do the same thing on the back. So just press face, I, go a bit inward again. That's fine. But for the side windows, as you can see here, we're going to need something a little bit more tricky. Still in edit mode, press Ctrl and R at the same time on your keyboard, Ctrl and R. And if you move your mouse around, you can see that this yellow thing appears. It is a loop cut. It is a very, very useful thing in Blender. It is one of the staples. And basically, it's used for a lot of things. But right now, as you can see, it's basically a line that is going through whole of your mesh around it, cutting in the middle of the faces like that. It's going to add another line, for example, right here or where you want it. And for this reason, it is very important in any 3D modeling to keep your faces as having only 4 vertices, so these points. So you want to keep them basically squares or rectangles, but not triangles, for example. I mean, you can still model with triangles, but especially for beginners, it is way easier and it will help you to keep your model clean. And it will allow you to use loop cuts. So basically, sorry, go into face select mode, not very important right now. And then Ctrl and R, everything in edit mode, and move around until you see a loop cut like that, that is cutting through for this cube like that, and then press left mouse button once, and now you can see that you can move it around a little bit. So basically, if we were to just press right mouse button right now, it would just position this loop cut, this line, at the very center of our mesh. So that's useful. So if you want it at the very center, just press right mouse button. But right now, you want it a little bit to the left of center, and then make another loop cut, Ctrl plus R, right here on this side, and left click, and then move it closer to this one. So as you can see, we are producing a frame here. Okay, and we have two things that can be used as side windows now. So basically select these faces, go to free, select faces, and do again push them inwards with I, like that, just a little bit. And here do the same thing, just a little bit. And here we're doing the same thing, and here the same thing. And we got windows almost, because we want to add a little bit of detail like that. It may not be very noticeable in this render that I got going on here, but it will be noticeable, for example, in your game or wherever, that they are very flat. You know, there's not much difference between where the supposed window is and where the frame is. So just select window like that and press E, and this is going to activate extrude function. So extrude allows you to kind of make another, like out of your existing face, just pull out another shape. So when I press E, I can pull out something like that. Obviously, that's not what we want. So I will, instead of pulling it out outwards, I will pull it in inwards a little bit, just so it would be, you know, a bit to the back, but obviously not too much, because it would look unrealistic. And here we added some depth to our window. That's nice. Let's do it on these windows as well. And in edit mode, we can select several faces at the same time by pressing Shift. Okay. Just then press E again, move them inward. A little bit like that. And on this side as well. Just move inward a little bit. And now for the back, we do the same thing. E, and then move your mouse inward a bit. And there we have it. These are some very simple windows for our blocky low poly car. Now what we need is obviously another headline. Don't worry, I haven't forgotten about it. So get out of edit mode, because all this time we have been in edit mode. And just click in object mode on this headlight right here. And then we're going to duplicate it, so we don't have to do it all over again. We can just duplicate stuff in Blender. That's very useful. So just press Shift and D, and that is for duplicate. So as you can see, we have it kind of in our hand right now. We're moving it around, but to make sure it will be positioned in the same way, just, you know, a bit more to the right, we're going to press X, and this way we're only moving this duplicate on the X axis. And move it here, left click, and there we have it. Okay, so now just real quickly, we're going to make wheels for our car. As you can guess, we're going to be using, I mean, maybe you can't guess because we can use quite a few things, but we're going to be using a cylinder once again for a very simple low poly wheel. So just Shift A and add a cylinder. We don't need to change the number of vertices this time. It's a wheel. The more, the better, basically. And now we're going to need it positioned in a different way. So it could be a wheel to our car. So just press rotate, Y, and 90. Type on your keyboard 90 with your just, you know, number keys. And now we're going to scale it on a Y axis. So S and Y. Sorry, on X axis. Yeah, you still get these things confused sometimes. And just make it really thin like that, so, you know, it would be a believable wheel. And now just move it into a proper position. Sorry for that. So just G and then Z, move it a bit up. Okay. And then G and X and and move it a bit more to the side here where the wheel should be. Back it up a little bit so it wouldn't just stick out like that. Maybe move it a bit lower because we don't want to be entirely hidden, but it can overlap a bit with your cube right here. That's what you basically want. No car has wheels like that. No, you want it to be a bit on the inside. And then just G and Y, move it here. And as you can probably guess, yeah, position it more or less where it should be. And as you can guess, we're going to use duplicate again, not to have to do all of that again. So just Shift and D, and then Y to move it only on the Y axis and move it forward. Okay, quite okay. And now go under your car, just press Shift and D and X again. And this time move it here. And then Shift and D and Y and move it here, more or less. So that is fine. These are our wheels. One important thing that I haven't done before duplicating them, and that means a bit more work for me, and because of that for you, but that happens. You gotta, with 3D modeling, you gotta think forward in what you're doing. Just select this wheel, press Tab, and in edit mode, select this face that you know will be visible from the outside. So this one that we have right here, and then press I to make it go inward. Because then we're going to color this part differently, as you can see in our reference picture. Just for this nice little detail. Get out of edit mode and do the same for the rest of your wheels. So just edit mode, select just this face. It's very important. Don't select any other faces, because when you go into edit mode, usually all of them are selected. Just select this one, I, and move it inward like that. Get out of edit mode again, just this face, I, inward. Get out of edit mode again, this face, and inward. So yeah, basically we could have done all of that on just one wheel and then duplicate it. I haven't done it. So, you should remember to do and to think forward like that to save yourself some time. Okay, and our car, basically, as a model, is finished. We don't need anything else. We're just going to need to add some color, obviously. So, when you press Z in Blender, you enter a menu like that. You can select different ways of viewing your model. The most basic one is solid, so that's where all the modeling is going to happen for the most part. Here you can select material preview. We'll be adding materials in a second. For now, our car is just this basic whitish color. We're going to change that. And when I press Z again, I can go into rendered. And this will show you in real time how your car would look, what your car would look like rendered. If you just started Blender, most likely you have a Eevee engine put on. So basically, when you go here into this panel and you click this at the very top, it's render properties. You can see that here are very many different things for you to choose from. But we're just going to go into this little tab here, and here you can select different engines for rendering your stuff. So they all look a bit different, but there may be not a huge difference. For now, just work in Eevee. That's what I'm going to be working on for this car. So just make sure it says Eevee here. And we can move around this light. So select this light and G grab it to kind of illuminate it. See what it would look like. Yeah, so this is not a very impressive light, but don't worry about it for now. Okay, so we got our car basically ready for us. Now what we need to do is start adding materials. So let's go back into solid view. And one important thing for the future, select this cube here, select tab, and once you have it in edit mode and everything is selected, all the faces all the vertices or whatever, like that. Select right click and then select subdivide and then select subdivide again and maybe just one more time. So as you can see, it is dividing your faces into smaller faces. So one face is divided into four and so on and so forth. You know, from four faces, you get 16 faces and you do the math. Okay, so this is going to allow us to add a little bit more detail on our brake lights. So so still in edit mode, select, for example, these three and holding shift these three and then click E for extrude and extrude it outwards a little bit. And yeah, that is going to be our brake lights. Very simple, nothing impressive, but it gets the job done in terms of low poly. Now let's start adding materials, so actual colors to our model. So here we have this blocky car, and when we select this very bottom, this is like the main body of our car, we can go into this panel right here, this big imposing panel right here, and select this little icon, material properties. And here we have a lot of different stuff. Don't worry about those changes. Don't worry about that. Uh, let's just make our car, let's say, I don't know, green. So here you can choose a type of a kind of shader material that will be put on your car. Don't worry, you don't need to understand all of them right now. Just stay with a basic one, the principled one for now. So this is going to be one of the most basic colors. Principled, right here, and diffuse. These are like the two most basic ones. So going here, you can select color, and for example, I will make it a bit darker green. So just select green, and here you can change the tone a little bit to make it darker. And now when we press Z and go into material preview, click on it, you can see that our car will be green. We also need this top here green with the roof and stuff. So we're going to, while still with this part selected, we're going to go and name our material right here, car body. So you would know that this color is a color for car body. Just click anywhere. And there you have it. So now click here and add a new material for this object, just like that. Instead of setting it here, you can just click here in this drop-down menu and select the color that you've already used. So we have this green as well. And don't worry, we're going to get to the windows a bit later. So they will not be green. Our driver will be able to see something. And now select that light and just do the same. Just make it all green for now. And here, do the same. Drop down menu in material tab, car body, there you have it. Okay, so now we want that window to be a little bit more believable. So what we are going to do is go into edit mode, again with this part selected, and select all the windows at once with shift. And now we are going to add another material to the same object. So here we're going to add a material slot with this plus and a new one. We're going to be making a new one. And right now we need something a bit more shiny, a bit more reflective so that it will be a believable window. So let's go and let's select the glass. You can click here in this preview tab to see what it would look like. And with these settings, you can change basically what your car is going to, what your material is going to be look like. So I will leave it white for now. Doesn't matter. Most important thing here is to set this roughness maybe more like 0.4. So you can just grab it and move it around, or you can double click it and input your value and enter. That's fine. And then with this IOR tab, we're going to make it 3 0.5 and enter. This is more or less what we need for a low poly window. Of course, there are different ways to go about it, but this one is like the one that maybe will help you the most. And then change the color a little bit, maybe to like light, very light yellow. And then with still these faces selected, click assign. And this is going to assign this specific material that I'm going to name window to this specific face on our mesh. So not entire object will become like that, only these faces. Assign, and now get out of edit mode, and we have some windows. Very low poly, very quick to do. Right now, let's finish last thing that we have on our car, and that is some wheels. Okay, so let's select that wheel, go into edit mode, and then select everything by clicking A. Entire wheel is selected, and then click on material and add new, and just with change your material here from principled on surface to diffuse. It's going to be a bit better. You can check the difference out for yourself. My opinion, it will be a bit better for our tires. And basically right now our entire wheel is black, but we have added this little face here. So in edit mode, select this face, and just like we did with windows, make a new material slot, add a new material, and you can just leave it on principled white as it is. So just assign it and get out of edit mode. We have this wheel like that. And actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete all these other wheels because I don't want to color them all again, and just duplicate this finished wheel. So Shift and D and Y, move it here, and then do the same thing for the rest. But as you can see, this is not the right side to the viewer as it should be. So just rotate it. R on Z axis and type in 180 on your keyboard and enter. And that just completely turned it around. And then Shift and D and Y to move it here. Let me just make sure that Shift D and Y. And okay, that's more or less it. Now let's just finish stuff with those headlights. So just press Tab and select this face, and you can you can select a different material for that. So it's not going to make a big difference, but in this render engine, but you can select here an emission shader, and just sorry about that. If you did the same thing, just Control Z out of it. Oh, actually, no, we're going to sorry, we're just going to select principle again. I have kind of forgot about that part. And just make it green again because we have changed entire car right now because we have messed with our with the same material. So basically, if I change this, I change entire car body material, and any parts that have it are also affected. So just leave it again at principled, and then add a new material slot and the new, like we did with the tires and windows. And here we choose emission and leave it white like that, and then assign it. And here we get white headlight. Get out of edit mode and click on the other headlight and do the same thing. New material slot, emission, shader, and just assign. That's it. Our car is ready basically. And I see it has taken a bit longer than I anticipated, but hopefully I can still just stay here and show you how to make a very simple racetrack for your car. So at the very least, you can practice for making some racing games. I can show you what I have made in preparation. Uh, so right now you should see it. So this is basically what I made. Maybe we won't have time to do all of these details, but thankfully, when I showed you how to model a car, you know, like the basic techniques. So then you will be able to do some of that stuff on your own. But don't worry, I'm still going to do most of it and show you how to do it properly. So then later on, you can just add stuff on your own to your map. So basically, let's go back to Blender. We're here with our car, and as you can guess, our car is currently a bunch of different parts just connected like that. Uh, oh, I can see I have forgotten to add brake lights, so just click on that main body, go into edit mode, and select this and this and this and this face. Add a new material. You can try with an emission shader again because these are supposed to be lights, but I tell you that with EV engine it doesn't make much difference. But it's probably no of no interest to you anyway. So just make a nice red like that and assign it. And here we're going to make it, for example, white to make it a bit more realistic. So we're gonna add a new material slot again, but instead of making it on our own, we're just gonna use this shader here. For me, it's my fourth material, and assign it. And then get out of edit mode. Our brake lights are ready. Our car is basically ready, but it is a bunch of different parts that are not related. So what we're going to do is select every object here in object mode, every wheel, every headlight, our upper and lower body, and make sure that the last thing that you select, your active object, is this lower body, because then when we press Ctrl J, we're going to join it into one object. So now when we move it, it's one car. I have this additional wheel because I might have just pressed duplicate twice. So I click on this additional wheel, press X, and then delete it. And that's it, because we don't need it. And the rest of the car is just done. As you can see, so basically what I meant is that when you select different parts with Shift, different objects, and then you press Ctrl J to join them, you are going to be creating a center of your object in the center of the last thing you selected. So when we selected this bottom body part, it means that whenever we rotate this car, it's going to be rotating more or less where we want it, because the middle of this bottom part is more or less in the middle of a car. So that's like helpful. If it was, if the wheel was the last thing we selected and then we joined them, we would be kind of rotating around this wheel, making big circles like that. So that's not very helpful. Okay, and now we're going to save our car. So just please press Ctrl S. Make a new file if you need to. You can just go into File and Save As, and just, as any type. So basically that's your Blender file. Always save it as a blend with a blend extension. And right now I'm going to go to 1.5 hours because I want to show you how to make a map. So just wait a second. I am going to show you and leave you with this, or maybe this beautiful image while I check out uh, the chat. Okay, more or less positive response, I guess. Okay, I don't see any questions, but I haven't been reading that much. I hope my moderators are keeping track of that. Thank you guys again, if you're still with us. And okay, so I will come back to Blender right now. And we have this car. We can just leave it here for reference. We're not going to make a new file or anything like that. What I'm going to do now is here in this panel, I'm going to get out of my image and select, where was it? Outliner. You didn't do that stuff, so you don't need to worry about that. But Outliner, as I said, is a handy thing that shows you what you have just selected. And if you get lost, if you don't know where your camera is, you can just select it here, and it's going to select it for you, or here, and stuff like that. So that's like very handy. Important thing that you might want to know about is a hide option. So if you don't want to see this car for a moment, you want to focus on something else that you will have going on here, you can just hide it here on this eye icon, and it will be hidden, and then just press it again to unhide it. Or when you select it and press H, it's the same thing. And when you press Alt H, it will unhide, show again all the stuff that you have hidden, because you can hide multiple things. I can hide this car and this light, and then I press Alt and H, and here they are. Okay, so we're going to be making a racetrack, a very simple racetrack with without further interruptions. Let's just get to it. Press Shift and A, and under your Mesh tab, add a plane. Plane is different from cube in that regard that that it is a plane. Yes, thank you very much, Amadeus. And that, as you can see, it kind of exists only in 2 dimensions. You don't need to worry about it right now. I'm just doing it for like a visual reference. This is going to be our entire ground, our entire island. So you want to make it as big as you can and as big as you want your racetrack to be. Oh, our car got hidden under it, so I just grab it, press Z to lift it up. Okay, the car is floating, doesn't matter. A bit of Harry Potter, flying cars, doesn't matter at the moment. And let's make it a big one. Okay, now that we have it, it will be our ground. So with this plane selected, press Tab, and then when you go into edit mode, everything is selected. Make sure everything is selected. You can do it with A if not everything is selected. Every of these two faces. Right click and subdivide. So you see, out of one face, it makes 4. Out of 4 faces, it makes 16. And subdivide it again and again. And okay, probably again. The more faces, obviously, the more freedom you have in manipulating it, but at the same time, it's going to be a bit harder on your hardware. So I know what you're on right now. If you're on a laptop like me, you might want to hold off with adding too many details, sorry. And okay, so basically now we have it. It's going to be useful for us for later. But right now we're going to do quite a fun thing. We're going to create a racetrack using a very nice trick. So to make it easier, press 7 on your numpad if you have it to go into top orthographic. If you can't, or for whatever reason, then just try to navigate to the top. It's still going to be fine. It's low poly, so we don't have to be very, very detail focused today. And then Shift plus A and go to curve and add a path. As you can see, path appeared somewhere. If you can't find it, then after adding it, it will be the first thing that you have selected. If not, then you can find it here under NURBS path. So make sure it's selected, then G and Z to lift it up. Zoom in on it. Yep, it is right there. And then go into this top view with this path selected. And then press Tab with this path selected to go into edit mode. Now you're editing this path. Press S, just S, and scale it some more. And now just G to grab it all, move it here. And with this path, by clicking on these points, you can just select, plan out where your route is going to be. So just how you want your racetrack to look like, just make it like that. I am going to make it more or less round. So as you can see, we get only 5 points to work with at the beginning. But what we can use is a beautiful extrude function where it will make where it will make another point for us and another one and another one. So just click on the, for example, leftmost point or rightmost, whatever, and then press E, still in edit mode, everything is in edit mode, and just extrude it. And just go there. Then press E again, and go there. And then maybe make a bit of a turn here, and E again to make another point here. And then start turning back, and another point. Make it a bit more interesting than just going around in circles. And here to add a few more points to make this turn less less extreme. And then we're going to lead it here. And then when we've almost come to the end, we want to link these 2 points. So just select this point and press F. And huh, it should be okay. Yeah, so part of working with Blender is you need to solve issues as they appear. Sometimes like I'm doing now. Uh, okay, so it doesn't want to link them for some reason. What if I do it like that? No, still don't want to do them. Okay, then just give me 2 seconds. I have to. Yeah, I'm so sorry for that. There appears to be a problem, so we can't link these two at the moment. For whatever reason, Blender is not allowing us to. So don't worry about it right now. It will still be a fine racetrack as it is. Just, it's not going to go exactly around, so it's going to have a start and then an end. Uh, Basically, what you would do is you would just select these 2 last points and press F, and that should connect them for you. So this is like for your future reference. I think there might be just some kind of uh, bug around it, I think. So don't worry about it. Just leave it as it is for now. What we're going to do then is just select all of it with A. And then you see it's not so even. It goes a bit up and down. So we want to press S, Z to scale it on the Z axis, and then press 0. That should more or less even it out for us. If it's not even, if for example this part was slower than this part or something like that. Okay, still doesn't work. Doesn't matter. going forward. Okay, so now we have this path more or less set out, how our racetrack will go. And now we just add, we go out of edit mode. That's important. Whenever you add stuff, always be in object mode. Shift and A, and let's add a cube, our good old cube, G and Z, to lift it up so we can see it. And then we're going to be making a road, an actual road that looks good. So just press G and, sorry, not GS, and just scale it. Make it a bit wider, like that. And then G and Y. Sorry, S and Y. Make it a little bit longer. Make it still a bit wider. And maybe let's make it a bit thinner with S and Z. Like that. Okay, that's good. Enlarge it a little bit on the Y and X axis. Okay, so a little piece of land like that, a little cube like that is going to become our road. First, we're going to add some materials to it. So, with this cube selected, go tab in edit mode, and then press Ctrl and R to add loop cuts. But we're not going to be adding just one loop cut. We're going to be adding more, quite some. So basically what you need to do, don't click anything, just go with your mouse wheel up, and that will add more loop cuts for you. 3, 4, 5. Don't have to know exact number, something like that is fine. So you would have 10 loop cuts, that's fine. Or we can go for 11. Then press left mouse button, left mouse button, and then right to just release it. And they're all perfectly in the middle, that's fine. And now what we're going to do is just select everything with A, and we're going to add a material that is going to be our road. So this is going to be a dark material. Let's make it just black. Sign, it's fine. And then we will select, for example, with face selection, just these two faces. Or maybe let's make it on the sides as a proper racetrack. Select these two faces and add a new material, and we will assign a white material to them. So these will be like lines on the road, as you can see. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to use Blender functions to save ourselves some time, and we don't have to replicate it to make a long road. We don't have to kind of scale it up or down or anything like that. We could here, but it's not going to help us to use this path that we have created to make our road. So go into modifiers. This is the tab here in this long panel of different tabs. Add a modifier and add an array modifier. As you can see, it has copied our road, but not where we want it. Here, it shows you on which axis it will be copied. So here it is copying it on X axis, so going left and right. We don't want that, so we put 0 here, and we want it to go like that on Y axis. So let's just put 1 as a value on Y axis. And that will be enough. Here you have a count, so you can use that, just press it and move it up and down, left and right with your mouse to make more of those. But for now, just leave it at 2 or even at 1, whatever you prefer. And add another modifier. Modifiers are these handy little functions that allow you to kind of do basically very different stuff. You're going to see a bit more later. But basically, what we'll be using right now is the modifier that you may not be using that often as you're beginning to learn. But right now, for what we want to do, we want to make a map for our game, is going to be very useful. A curve modifier. And then here, when you selected it, go here to curve object, click on it, and select NURBS path. And right now, it should be following this path. Let me show you. Okay, I'm just gonna save it. You stay right there. Let me just show you on my previous basically map that I worked on, what it looked like. So basically here, when I have this road and I have array modifier, basically doing everything that I just did. So following this NURBS path, I suspect it may not work in the other one because the path didn't want to connect for some reason. Basically what I have here allows me to just use this array modifier. And I click on the road. So I have one here. And when I selected this modifier on a curve like that and added a NURBS path, this makes this object follow the path that I have set out here. And then by adding a count of my modifiers, so how many times I want to duplicate it, as you can see, it is nicely following the road. And that's basically what I did. That's basically what you should be able to do as well. Uh, I've read that there might be some errors sometimes with Blender, but I don't think that like with the recent versions it should happen still. But it might. Just I'll just check that my settings in that one were similar to. Yeah, that should be fine. No. Okay. So basically going there, as I have shown you, you would be able to produce a road like that. Hopefully you have been able to do that. Uh, yeah. So coming back to our unfortunately dysfunctional at the moment road. Let me just maybe that will make it a bit better. Okay, maybe I have high hopes about this one. Yep. Okay, so I just put it in a wrong orientation. Sorry about that. So basically, what you want to do is when you have it like that, like me, and here in your modifier on your road, uh, it says that it will deform on x-axis. That's like a default setting. Don't try to change that. Just click on your path and press R and then Z to rotate it, and then 90. Yeah, that will be fine. Enter. And then when you go into this road here, just increase the count of modifiers and it will follow. As you can see, oh, actually, it worked just fine. I have no further any further comments about that. Let's just pretend it's been all good from the beginning. Last thing that I want to do, because the road is a bit uneven in some places, so I will try to even it out by selecting this road, pressing S, Z, and then 0. No, 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 don't do that. Don't do that, kids. No, actually, I think it's like quite okay anyway. So just move it a bit down, G and Z, just barely above the surface. We're going to enlarge our plane, still fine. As you can see, the further away we get, the less details and the more kind of messed up. It gets more mess, uh, more kind of entangled with it. But don't worry, once you get close, it looks just fine. That's what we're going to need. Okay, so just we're kind of running late here, a bit later than I anticipated. So basically what I'm going to do is show you how to make a mountain right here, and then really quickly some trees and some clouds in low poly style, and because they will be really quick and easy to make, and then hopefully getting from all the basic stuff about modeling with extruding and kind of, moving vertices and faces around in edit mode, you will be able to do more stuff on your own. So just to get you comfortable in Blender, a lot of it is about experimenting. So, just try to try to experiment, try to work out what's working in what way, stuff like that. Uh, yeah, basically that's like a lion's share, is to just try stuff out and try to learn about what happens when and how. Uh, I have linked down in the description a official kind of introductory videos made by Blender Foundation about functions of Blender 2.8. Don't worry, they work with 2.9 just fine. There are a lot of them, and they cover like very specific functions. So you don't want to watch all of them at the beginning, because, for example, when you're learning these functions later on, you may want to know more about extrude function. So we can find it there, like a specific video about extrude function. But an important thing is that I recommend watching first 15 videos. They're really short, most of them, like 3 minutes, 2 minutes long, that cover all the basics: navigation, transformations, moving stuff around, editing, some basic modeling. So, just to refresh your memory. And of course, you probably heard about him. I can also recommend the Blender Guru tutorials for more in depth. They'll go into hours and hours. As you can see, 1.5 hour here is not enough for us, because that's just how it is with Blender. You just gotta experiment with stuff and just gotta work step by step, especially when you're just beginning. So basically, check these out. The link to the Blender Foundation videos is in the description, and you can just find Blender Guru on YouTube, or just any other Blender tutorials for that matter. There is a ton of them because Blender is free and everyone is doing tutorials on it. So right now we're just going to make a mountain. Here we got this nice plane. Just go tab, select this plane in object mode, and then go into edit mode. And then let's select quite a few vertices. So just go press 1 to go into vertices selection, and deselect everything. Sorry, my screencast is just getting turned off whenever I change files. And now select a few of those. Some random, like in the middle. Interesting thing is when you press C, you can select with like this circle. So it makes stuff easier. You can make it bigger, larger. So, you're kind of selecting more of stuff at the same time. You don't have to click every individual vertices. So just let's do that. Make it a little smaller with your middle mouse. Just scroll and then select a few like that. And then what we're going to do is, here we have a nice option, proportional editing. So it's going to allow us, when we move these points, to Blender will for us simulate proportional movement of all the points around it. How it works in practice, let me show you. When I press G and Z to move these points up, and I don't have proportional editing turned on, it goes like that. At first, okay-ish for a small hill, but it doesn't look like it should. But when we select proportional editing, there are many different options. The best for stuff like making low poly mountains and such is smooth. So just turn it on with this button, G and Z. And here you can see a circle of its influence. So just with your scroll, you can increase it or decrease it. But if it's too small, it's not going to be what you want. So just make it a bit bigger. Okay, a little bit too big. It has kind of interfered on our road here. So I'm just going to select a bunch of different points. By the way, I just canceled all of that with Control Z to just kind of undo. And then G and Z again with proportional editing on. Increase the radius of its influence. And that's quite an okay hill. So that's basically what you need. Let's add some material on that plane. Select this plane in object mode. Go back into object mode. Add material. Use diffuse for that. A shader, and then just select some shade of green. Let's get our car back up. G and Z for our car, and then G and Y to move it here, and just G and Z to put it a bit lower. Okay, so now we got it. We got this mountain going on. So the next thing we're going to do is make some low poly trees. So just maybe let's move our 3D cursor somewhere here so our things would be added a bit closer. So press Shift and right click, and there we are. There's our cursor. And now let's add a mesh that will be a cylinder. And here under this tab, add cylinder, don't click anything else. Click on it right away. In vertices, just insert 8. So it's going to be more blocky. That's better for low poly look. Make sure you select the cylinder. Let's raise it a bit up. It's important to don't really move it around too much right now. I mean, by all means, translate it, just grab it and move it around like that, but don't rotate it too much is my point. So we would know where each axis is. So it would be exactly on axis Y and X and Z. Okay, and now let's scale it up for our tree and then scale it up on Z like that. And that will be like, a basis of our tree. Then tab and select this face here and scale it down a little bit. And that's fine. Have to be too much. And we have a base of our tree. Now let's make Shift and D and duplicate it. Move it only on X-axis. And then okay, so what I have done, you can just undo that with Control Z, is I have duplicated it in edit mode. I could have done it, but for this purpose of it, don't do that because it's going to quite change how you can interact with, for example, all the model, your parts of your model and stuff. So just after changing your tree bases like that, go into object mode and then duplicate it. And now it is a separate object, which is good. We can move it up, we can scale it down a little bit and maybe make it longer. And then G and rotate it on y-axis. Sorry, R and rotate it on y-axis. And then G and move it here. Index. And then duplicate it again maybe. Move it on x-axis here. And then just rotate it on y-axis. Move it on x-axis again. And we got 2 branches to our wonderful tree. Move it a bit better so it would be positioned in a more believable way. Angle it a bit so it would look more random, more realistic. And now we have these. So what we need are some leaves, and obviously these are going to be low poly as well. So just add another mesh, and that is going to be icosphere. Don't change anything here. Take it, lift it up. Take the icosphere, lift it up, so we can see it better. Obviously, enlarge it. It is quite nice already for a low poly tree, so we could leave it like that, but we can also add a modifier to it, and that modifier is decimate. So basically, it will just allow us to uh, kind of change how blocky it is for your purposes. So by scaling down this ratio here, we can make it a bit more low poly, which is a cuter look in my opinion. So we're going to go with that, but we don't have to do it, just for your knowledge. And you see, it's more blocky now. So just move it with grab and position it over a branch right here. And then apply the modifier. We have to apply them because, for example, when I would take all of these parts and join them into a tree, just like we did with car, without applying the modifier would just disappear. We wouldn't see it as a decimated. So that's important. Before you like move forward like that, apply modifier, but don't be too hasty with applying modifiers. When you're still working on this particular part or this particular model, then don't apply it just right away because you might need to change it and you can't really change it when it's applied already. So when you apply it, there is no going back. It's going to stay like that. So now, as I've applied it, because now I can, I'm just going to duplicate it, move already, just duplicate and then X to move it on X-axis, position it here, here, and yeah, that is going to be fine. So now I am going to select that and just add some material. You know the drill now. Use diffuse because it's less shiny than principled, so maybe it will be a bit better for it. And let's make a brownish color by going to this orange and just making it a bit darker. That's good. Uh, yeah, by the way, I'm working in material preview because I can already see colors. Basically, you can do the same stuff in solid. That's even more preferable, but we're now doing material, so I'm just going to stay in it. I'm going to name this material tree. Very simple. And reuse it here. So I'm clicking on this part, this branch, and just click on this drop down menu and just reuse the material like we did before. And for leaves, we need something green. So just add a new material by clicking on this icosphere. That is our the head of our tree. Let's make it diffuse once again because it's less shiny, better for a tree in my opinion. Make it a darker green and just name it leaf and reuse it here on this part. And now let's select this, but maybe let's select this very base as the last one because that's where we're going to get a center of our object when I click Ctrl and J to join. And see now when I rotate it, it's rotating here. But for example, let me just go back to show you that if I have done it like that, so the last active thing that I selected is this, and I click Ctrl J, then when I rotate it, it's rotating around here. Not a huge problem, but sometimes it's useful to be aware of that. And voila, we got a tree. As you can guess, you can just modify this tree by, for example, positioning the branches in a bit different way. Just, maybe add a small branch here and a smaller icosphere here. This tree is fucking gigantic. Sorry for my language, but it is. So I'm just going to make it a bit smaller. And there, here we are. As you can guess, you can also make a pine tree by just adding cylinder again to make a base of the tree, scale it up, make it a bit bigger, and a pine tree is even simpler because now we're going to add a cone. and make this cone. It's important here in vertices, just when it's added, make it like, try 12, see what it would look like. Yep, blocky enough, because you don't want too many vertices because it's not going to be low poly enough. And there is a part of our pine tree, then duplicate it and Z to move it on the Z axis, move it like that, and then scale it up, even it out a bit, and D to duplicate it, move it on Z axis, and scale it up a little bit. And there we have our pine tree. So now let's just color this base with our tree material and just add a nice material for a pine tree. Make it a bit different. Let's make it like that and reuse it with the rest. And now click on all of these, select base as the last one, and Ctrl J to join them. We got two trees going on right here. So that's basically how you can make a very simple tree, and you can use that to kind of alter it on your own, add stuff to it. The last thing I want to do is just add some clouds, which is very simple. Just go to icosphere, and we're going to be doing the same thing that we did with leaves, just just making them white basically. Enlarge it, and then add a decimate modifier to make it more low poly. You don't have to do that, but I think we're going for a very low poly look, so that's going to be fine. Add a can be principled, whatever. Just this material is fine because it's exactly what we need, a white one. And then we can, for example, duplicate it and move it on the X, and then scale it, for example, only on X axis or only on Y axis, or only on Z axis, sorry. Or maybe we can scale it on all the axes except for Y, so Shift and Y now. Make it a bit bigger, and then duplicate this one, move it here, and we got a little cloud going on. I'm gonna move it here. And here, scale it down to make it more interesting. And a little tiny cloud here. We can join these into one cloud and these into a second cloud. And that's basically our little setup here. We can duplicate some of these trees. Of course, it would be more beneficial to kind of tweak them, but I've told you how to do that. Just, you can position branches a bit differently, add more branches, and add some additional leaves like that. If it's low poly, then that's very simple to alter on your own. Add some more pine trees to the mix. As you can see, it is definitely not an introduction to proper positioning and proper arranging stuff for your render. That's definitely not it. And last important thing, you probably want to see what it would look like rendered. So what we're going to do is first go here into this world preview and select color of our background here. Let's change it to something nicer. So let's tune it up a bit. And then let's select like a very light blue. And then when we press Z and go to rendered, we can see that we have this right here. Our clouds are not so visible right now, so we might want to do something about it. Maybe let's try and change their material to diffuse. But it doesn't really matter because right now the sky is emitting light and it kind of colors them and colors everything. But don't worry, we're going to add a sun now. So press Shift and A and go right here down to light and sun. And as you can see, it already improved things quite a bit. Now have this sun selected and move it up, but it doesn't really matter where the sun is. It's just for your reference. What is important is where the sun is pointing. So you see this line here, just press R and for example X, and you can rotate where the sun shines at what angle. That's quite important. With Z, as you can see, different maybe time of the day, you can simulate with that. Let's make it like that. And okay, so we got our sun, we got our setup. Okay, this is hideous, but I am running out of time, so I just want to use it as an example. I encourage you to do better. I think you can do better, even if you've just begun. Uh, let's add, let's actually reuse the camera. Where is it? We don't know, but we can select it from this panel here, from our outliner camera, and now press G and Z, and there it is, or wherever it is. You can just see it by this little red point. But even more useful thing to do is to just go like that and set your view like that. Ignore the camera here. But while you have it selected, press at the same time Ctrl Alt and 0 on your numpad. Alt allows you to move a camera at the same. Okay, and when we go here right now, we can select camera to view and we can move it around like that. Sorry about that. I think I might have. Okay, never mind. I've been told that I might have some uh, audio problems, but it appears that not. So that's fine. Uh, okay, so basically, I have this camera kind of lost here. Uh, don't worry about it. I'm going to show you on a better example where I have camera nicely set up. Uh, just go to the previous file. And here, when I press 0 on Okay, sorry about that. There was a sound problem. Uh, so as I've said, uh, sorry about that. It just turned off on me. So as I've said, uh, you can position your camera like that. I've did it in this already scene that I have prepared. You can just do it on your own scene. When you click here, you can move around camera as your you can move around camera around as your normal view in Blender. And then when you get camera positioned, we just press 0 on our numpad to go and 0 to get out. Uh, we can see how it would look like and then click here. So here are the options, you know them, the dimensions and the file output, and just go to render image and wait a little bit depending on how good your computer is, and Blender is going to render it for you. And now you might want to save this beautiful render, this amazing scene that you have here. I mean, you're going to be using it for games, probably a lot of you, so it's not as important for you, but it's still nice to save it, right? So just click on image here in this render output and just save as. And then don't need that, just leave it as PNG. Save it in your desired folder. You can select it here or just here. Works as any normal window. Save as image, and then it's going to be saved on your machine. So that's it. I went way over time, but that's the way it is with Blender. It's kind of tricky. It makes it very tricky to navigate, and it takes time. I mean, it's fairly easy once you get a hang of it. As you can see, uh, as you can see here, what we have done. You can, when you get the basics, how to make this tree, you can make a lot of different changes to it, produce different outputs, and stuff like that. Uh, I have seen that there's a question in the chat, so just let me see. Oh, okay. So here I see question. Can you subdivide it into different shaped pieces? I'm so sorry. I've been so much into this tutorial that I am reading this really late. But yeah, Clara, you can subdivide it into different. You can't subdivide it into different shaped pieces to answer your question, because what subdivide does, it just uh, divides it into equal faces. So you're going to just get rectangulars. There is a way to get triangles out of it, but still, it's still going to be the same amount. You can't, for example, change this one particular face like that. But when you go into edit mode on something that is subdivided, like this plane here, select it all with A, and then go Control T. Control T, and that will allow you to triangulate them, so you'll get triangles. Triangles are useful for different kind of stuff, but yeah, but you can get triangles this way. But for general use, as I told you, as beginners, you may prefer to have squares and rectangles. Okay, so that's basically it. I'm going to undo it, get out of edit mode. So this is Blender for you. A lot of basic stuff, a bit disorganized. I'm so sorry for that, but that's the way it sometimes works. You actually have to be prepared that you're gonna have to improvise and you're gonna have to spend a lot of time just kind of messing around with the smallest settings and stuff, and just uh, be ready that there might be some hurdles on your way that you can't solve right away, but at the same time it feels so good once you finally get the problem over. So don't give up, play around in Blender. I hope I showed you some new stuff that you did not know about, some stuff that you can play around with. I'm so sorry for some technical difficulties with sound and such, but I still hope. I've seen that some of you said that there are some new tricks that they've learned. I went way over time. It took us 2 hours, but I hope if you were absolute beginner that you are now not as afraid of Blender as you were, because it can be quite intimidating with its windows and panels. And yeah, there are many more stuff that I did not cover, obviously, but there is a vast majority of good tutorials out there on YouTube for free that cover very specific topics, and at the same time there are other that just introduce you more in depth. They go into hours, so these 2 hours it's definitely not enough for you to kinda to get a very solid grasp of Blender. But I hope you got the basic grasp of Blender and that you're kind of ready to go out and explore it on your own, because this is a great software. It is free, and anything you make with it can be used in any way you so ever desire. So if you make models with it, if you use it to make models for your game, you can just use these models and sell your game. That's great part about this open free software. And I hope that you will continue and that you will also go on to see other streams from our society. Tomorrow we are having music. Matthew will introduce you to music. On Wednesday, for a change, there is a 2D art. So if you are interested in 2D art, or you have any friends who are, and they didn't come today because they're not that interested in Blender, then tell them that 2D art workshops are coming. And on Thursday, as I've said, we're having Unity. So kind of, programming Unity introduction to get you started with it and to actually put your game together. And on Friday, there is our society's game jam. If you want to make game alone or in teams, you can come in already formed teams or form teams as you go. Just go. It's on our Facebook page. It's on. You can find it also on our Discord. I've linked it down below. There's more information on our website as well. So just go there, check it all out. I hope I helped you a little bit. I'm sorry, but I hope at least it was funny for you when I kind of struggled over something. Uh, Kind of gave you a true Blender experience, if I may say so. And just, uh, that's it for it. I won't hold you any longer. This stream is going to be recorded. You can watch it later. Make amazing car. Make less amazing racetrack. And I'm sorry we didn't have really time for that bonus. Well, it happens. Maybe we'll make some more Blender tutorials in the future, probably. Then we can make some more stuff, maybe some more advanced stuff. And that's basically it. You can follow us on Facebook. You can subscribe to this channel. There will be some more stuff coming up. And go on Discord if you want to chat to us. And if you're a student of Glasgow Uni or connected to Glasgow Uni and you want to make games, just, join us. That's what we are here for. Hope it was beneficial and educational for you. And see you tomorrow. I mean, not me, but still hope you will be there tomorrow. Good night, everyone.